welcome to another video of Short-Term Mirages. Today we have the Pixel 6a with us. So I'm going to tell you a brief about this phone, what Google has got right. Although I have a very big gripe with Google that they don't launch the premium flagship phones in India, the 6 and 6 Pro. I don't know about 7 and 7 Pro. I did manage to get it in UAE, but in India it was not available. Moving on to this phone, the in-hand feel of the device is really good. Although it does feel a little plasticky on the sides because they have put plastic to cut cost, and on the back it feels like a glass surface, although I think it's plastic too on the back. This is a 6.1 inch device, so one thing that I feel is that it's on the smaller side because I use the iPhone 13 Pro Max as my primary device, so that way it feels a little smaller to use for day-to-day purposes. The in-hand feel of this being a budget phone from Google definitely feels better than what I would have expected. It's a very thin and light device also, so no added bulk or no extra anything. On the back it's a very clean looking device with just a G mentioned on the back for Google's logo, and made in Vietnam. This device is actually made in Vietnam, so that is also mentioned on the back. Decent looking device on the front. The bezels are a little big than I expected to be, but still, as I said, it's a mid-range phone, so that's understandable. Now moving on to the next part, it has two camera at the back, although the design in which they have put the camera feels a lot more like the Pixel 7 that they showcased in the Android 13 launch event rather than Pixel 6. That's, I don't know, a strange choice by Google. So talking about the display, this is a 6.1 inch device with a 1080p panel. 1080p panel, although you don't see a lot these days, but 1080p panel on this small size screen doesn't feel like an issue to me. The main gripe that I have with this device is the 60 Hz refresh rate. I mean, come on Google, this is a 45,000 rupees device and you are still giving a 60 Hz panel. I might be cribbing a lot about 60 Hz panel on this, but the issue is that I continuously use 120 Hz. So coming from 120 Hz back to 60 Hz actually feels like a step down, that you are going backwards, but that's something that I think Google can easily fix and can give 120 Hz display easily on this device, but they still choose not to, so that's surprising to me. The software experience in this is, as I've mentioned earlier also in my Pixel review, is that it's Google's take on Android. We can't call it stock Android. It has added lots of googly features that Google wants to add. So it's Google's take on Android. It's still close to stock Android and what we know as a stock Android, because there are no Google One devices in the market anymore. So there are little features all around the OS, all around the user interface that makes you feel like this is a smartphone. You get very small suggestions. The Google Assistant is actually very smart. So all those small things add up and make it a really smart device, and you'll feel that it's a good device when you are using it. This is a Google device, so two things is certain about this. One, that it's going to have a near to stock experience with Google's added flavor, and second is a Tensor chip. First, I'd like to talk about the stock Android experience. So overall, the performance throughout the UI is very smooth. You will never see any lag or dropped frames or anything. While playing games also, this phone feels really good. Just the same thing that I mentioned earlier is that 60 Hz display causes, it instantly makes me, kind of believe that it's a slow phone just because of the dropped frames. Less frames actually, not dropped frames. So that is something that I think most users using a 60 Hz phone will not face it, but I don't think there is a lot of phones with 60 Hz display these days. I actually wanted to keep it as my secondary device, but couldn't because of the display refresh rate. So I'm moving on to the Nothing Phone 1, that is my secondary phone these days. With the Pixel 6, Google announced their own custom chip, which is basically running a Samsung made processor. So this continues the trend. This is also using the same processor as the Pixel 6, the Tensor, to Android what Apple is doing to their iPhone. So basically it's a stock Android experience with Google's own chips, with Google's own optimizations. Because of that, even on a 45,000 phone, you will never ever see any dropped frames or any performance issues while playing games, while shooting videos, while taking photos. So performance, despite the chip not having that much raw performance, you'll never see or feel that the chip is lacking in performance. So that's something really good that Google has done with Tensor. I think when a hardware manufacturer manufactures the chip and the software both, it gives a better user experience like in case of an iPhone. Now this is a Pixel phone. So what we expect out of a Pixel is best camera possibly you can get on the market, because since the time Pixel was announced, camera is something that Google has focused a lot on. So that trend has continued here. The dynamic range on this phone is amazing, but it still, I think, lags a little behind Apple. It competes very well with Nothing. We tried clicking pictures with all three phones, the Nothing Phone 1, the Pixel 6a and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Putting an iPhone 13 Pro Max and Pixel 6a in a same sentence itself shows how much Google has put into software and their camera performance that we are talking about Pixel and the flagship device from Apple in the same sentence. Moving on to the another point about cameras that I noticed, because I want to give you a little more detailed review about the camera. One thing that I saw is that the pictures that come out of device is not so saturated. So as a Pixel device, it tends to make the images look more natural and more the way they should be, and not extremely saturated like Samsung does in a lot of their pictures. The color production of the device is also very good. White balance and all those things is good. One thing that I noticed is that it does add magenta tint at times to the photos, and it tends to go on the little warmer side. So that's something that I noticed particularly. I don't know about you guys. I'm putting the photos that we shot from this phone to give you an overview. So check it out and let me know what you think about the photos. The close-up shots taken from this phone looks absolutely amazing. The depth of field effect that Google does with their software is still magic and works really well on these devices. It surprises me how much Google has come ahead in terms of camera performance on these phones. Google has also improved the ultra-wide, so the distortion and the color production, everything from the ultra-wide is also very good. Still not at the level of an iPhone where all three cameras give you almost identical results. On these you feel that it's shot from a different lens or a different camera, but yeah, Google is coming closer to that. Next point that I particularly noticed and really liked is the skin tone production. So Google has put in a lot of research in getting the skin tone right, because what phones tend to do is make the picture look brighter, which doesn't produce natural skin tone. So that's something that Google is trying to overcome, and they showed a lot of it on the demo on Android 13 launch, and I think they have continued their efforts and it shows here. The skin production I think is the best I've ever seen in market, and it even beats iPhone at certain points in the skin color reproduction. So that's something that's very great for Google. Portrait shot taken out of this phone is also really good, so no complaints there. The edge detection is still lacky, I think, because the sensor is not that big, so they have to heavily depend on the software to detect the edges properly and then give you the picture. So that's something I think of is an issue. Mind you, this phone doesn't have a telephoto lens, still clicks, I think, good photos despite digitally zooming 2x, so they don't lose lots of quality despite not having the hardware. So overall, in my experience, this is a really good device. Only con that I feel is that the 120Hz display and the pricing is on the little higher side, because remove the camera out of this phone, it is not as good as the Nothing Phone 1. Only the camera, I think Pixel will beat Nothing in hands down almost every scenario, but still the pricing is on the higher side for this device, and 60 Hz on a 45,000 device is not acceptable at all in 2022. So that's, I think, something Google should definitely try to fix. Other than that, if you are in the market looking for a device in this price segment, I don't think there is a better camera phone in the market in this price segment. So you should definitely check it out, and let me know down in the comments below if you want me to make a detailed camera review of this device with comparing with other devices. So thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Hope to see you in the next one.